Welcome to news updates on Today Ghana News TV. We are live on the satellite via Twitch for our viewers in Eastern European countries and also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Today Ghana News TV. We are also on anchor.fm/podcast at Today Ghana News TV. Now the headlines. Government to support Ghana's pharmaceutical companies. Honorable Oko Boye. Professor P.O. Lumumba advises African leaders to not stay too long in office. We have these and other stories coming your way. My name is Edna Sabunya. The news is sponsored. Welcome to news updates on Today Ghana News TV. We are live on the satellite via Twitch for our viewers in Eastern European countries and also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Today Ghana News TV. Now the headlines. Government to support Ghana's pharmaceutical companies. Honorable Oko Boye. Professor P.O. Lumumba advises African leaders to not stay too long in office. We have this and other stories coming your way. My name is Edna Sabunya. The news is sponsored by Top Connect. Send money everywhere, no fees. To our first story, the Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Health Insurance Authority, Honorable Oko Boye, has announced government support to Ghana's growing pharmaceutical companies. Speaking to journalists in Accra, he said government will remove taxes on imported medicines and raw materials for manufacturers.
Some medicines are imported. So once we look at the tax regime, if you're able to reduce taxes on the medicines or take it. Some medicines are imported. So once we look at the tax regime, if you're able to reduce taxes on the medicines or take it off, then it will affect ultimately the price in the hospital. Secondly, even for those who are producing in Ghana, pharmaceutical companies will tell you they have what they refer to as the active ingredient. What they use for paracetamol, although it's made here, might be imported. Once you look at tax on that, it will affect medicine. So our job is to improve access. Access is not only being able to go to Lekman Hospital or reach. If the medicine is cheap, it will make it easier to have it on the shelf. So government has a job to increase access. I mentioned the national electronic platform for pharmacy, the e-pharmacy.
African leaders has been advised to not stay too long in office because at the end of their term, they will not be remembered on how long they served, but how well they served. The advice was given by celebrated Pan-Africanist Professor P.O. Lumumba at the 10th Professor Mills Memorial Lectures in Kumasi to commemorate the 10th year passing of the late Ghanaian president.
Blatant thievery in order to rise to the firm ground of hope. And therefore, when we are called upon to commemorate the life and times of President Atta Mills, a number of questions must come to mind. History records and will continue to do so until it is otherwise proven that he was the shortest serving president of the Republic of Ghana. But his footprints in the sands of time tells us that it's not how long you serve that matters, but how well you serve. So the first message that we are sending out today to Africans is that longevity in office in and of itself is not what makes one great, but the quality of service. And I'm speaking at a time when the continent of Africa has no shortage of dinosaurs who have refused to leave the stage. And their refusal to leave the stage has made Africa the poorer. We are celebrating John Evans Atta Mills because he reminds us that it's not how long you serve, but how well you serve. I'm speaking at a time when Africa, indeed many African countries, are infamous because of individuals who occupy public space, and their greatest claim to fame is that they are dishonest, is that they are arrogant, is that they are thieves. And therefore, when we celebrate President John Atta Mills, whom we are told and we are aware was a votary for transparency, we are telling them that it is not how long you serve, it is how well you serve. We are celebrating and commemorating John Atta Mills at a time when the continent of Africa is laboring under the weight of conflict. And if you ever doubted, cast your eye around the continent. Cast your eye to Sudan. Africans are dying in the thousands. Cast your eye to southern Cameroon. People are dying in the thousands. Cast your eye to Somalia. People are dying. Cast your eye to northern Burkina Faso. The continent is not at ease. And we are commemorating Professor John Atta Mills because he was known as the King of Peace. And we are saying that this is the time that we must give practical meaning to what he stood for, in recognition that this continent will realize our potential until we are peaceful. And I'm not talking about the peace of the graveyard. I'm talking about peace that is real, peace that allows us to exploit our potential, peace that allows us to live in dignity. This man that we are commemorating today was a warrior for peace and justice, and he was such a warrior recognized only for slightly over 3.5 years, demonstrating that it's not how long you serve, but how well you serve. And we are here to also remind ourselves, particularly at a time when in the continent of Africa, power is attended by pomp and circumstance. When power in Africa is attended by wastage, where power is attended by razzmatazz, where power is attended by abuse of office, and we are reminded that one of Atta Mills' greatest claim to fame was humility. We are celebrating humility, and from this podium we are telling the arrogant African politician, be not arrogant. Be not arrogant, because the words of the Bible are still true, that if you are arrogant, there shall still appear a fingerless God, and it shall be said, mene, tekel, upersin, that your words and days have been weighed and you've been found wanting. We are reminding them that Atta Mills was the personification of humility, and if Africa...
Still on the event, former President John Mahama, who was the vice president to the last president advised current political leaders to learn the virtue of good leadership and emulate the humility, patriotism, and incorruptibility leadership of Professor Mills.
Those in leadership today will learn from the man Atta Mills. Much has been said about him, and so I'm not going to come and repeat them. But we know that today, as Professor Lumumba said, Africa is in crisis. There's conflict across the land. We have the activities of terrorists and insurgents all over. Our countries are in economic crisis, and there is anarchy in many places. But I'll single our own country, Ghana, the black star of Africa, the country in which a lot of people held high hopes in, the country that led the liberation struggle for Africa. And to say that much the same as we see across the continent is happening in our own country. Our economy is in crisis, and there is hardship across the land. Corruption and theft have become the new normal and not the exception. Impunity has enveloped our land, and public officials carry themselves as if they own the country. Ostentation has become the hallmark of people in office, and arrogance has become the prime character of the current leadership. Now, if you look at all that is happening in Ghana today, they were completely contrary to the attributes that Atta Mills espoused. Atta Mills was a man of integrity, and all of us can vouch for his integrity. He was a modest man and didn't need millions of dollars in his house to survive. Atta Mills was humble and respected everybody, from the oldest person to the youngest person. He treated everybody as a human being and treated them with decency and decorum. He was a very practical person, and he was a very transparent person. As one of those who worked very closely with him, I'll share a few anecdotes that will put his persona in greater perspective. We all know he was a man of peace, and his mantra that we all heard all the time was Ameze Mepe Asumdwe, and that is how come he repeated it so often that his opponent thought they were mocking him by calling him Asumdwe Hene, and it actually became the most appropriate title for him. And so in Ghana today, we all call him with pride, the Asumdwe Hene. And that is why the park where he's buried, where we gathered to celebrate him just last Monday, is named the Asumdwe Park, the Park of Peace. President Mills in 2008, when there was a lot of tension in the land in the run-up to the elections, macho men were running riot all over the place and threatening to inflict violence on people just to capture political power. He famously said, "No amount of political power is worth shedding a drop of blood of any single Ghanaian." And so if he was going to bath this country in bloodshed, then he rather didn't want to be president. He didn't want the power. And so he restrained our people from responding with violence on any occasion. And it was the wish of God that he should be president of this country. And so despite all the shenanigans and the conspiracies and attempts to go and dump dead bodies in the Volta Lake to prove that party agents had been lynched and killed in Volta region, despite the Bantama figures and other huge figures that were faxed in again after the counting had been done, despite all that, and despite time for those of
The Mamponhini Osiadio Yobonso, who was the chairman for the occasion, has this piece of advice for politicians.
Evans Atamil's Memorial Heritage Lecture, let us remember the profound impact he had on education and the lives of those he taught. I would like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to organizers of this event for giving us the opportunity to gather and celebrate the life and legacy of Professor Evans Atamils. I also express gratitude to all distinguished speakers and participants who shared their insights and reflections on this momentous occasion. May this occasion be a profound reminder of the far-reaching influence of a passionate educator and leader. Let us carry forward his legacy with pride and continue to foster excellence in education just as he did. Thank you, and I wish you.
Parliament of Ghana has passed a law criminalizing witchcraft accusations in any form. Promoter of the bill, Honorable Francis Sosu, expressed delight in an interview at the Parliament House.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. Honorable members.
An act to amend the Criminal Offences Act 1960, Act 29, to prohibit the practice by any person as a witch doctor or a witch finder, to proscribe the declaration, accusation, naming or labeling of another person as a witch, and for related matters.
Honorable members, Criminal Offences Amendment Bill 2022 is read the third time and passed.
I cannot hide my joy now. So the reason is that for all the 539 persons who are locked up in witch camps across the country, they are looking forward to us to take some decisive step to dealing with this situation. This problem has lived with us for over 100 years, and we've been struggling as to how to deal with it. And to the extent that this 8th Parliament has found it needful to pass this bill into law, for me, it's definitely going to bring about a very serious mind shift. It's going to correct a lot of ills in our society, and I am confident that we are just building a better society for ourselves. Well, the law simply says that henceforth nobody can practice as a witch doctor or a witch finder, and it will be also unlawful to accuse another person of witchcraft. And if you are a community leader who supervises either the labeling of another person as a witch, or beating of the person, or lynching the person, as we have always been seeing, all of you will be in breach of this law.
We urge the President, knowing and gaining from our human rights records and performance globally so far, this is another opportunity for us to up our ranking in human rights. And I do believe that His Excellency the President is very concerned about our human rights profile. And so I'm confident that he will sign it immediately as soon as possible into law. Like I said, up north, I think that this there's a cultural relationship, etc., about witchcraft and so on. And let me be clear that we are not proscribing witchcraft per se. We are not saying people shouldn't exercise their cultural, their religious, their spiritual beliefs. No. What we are saying is that you cannot.
Reading some of your Facebook messages. From Mavis Boatin, God bless Professor Lumumba and his team. Rest in peace to Professor Atamils. Thank you, Mavis. From Asampahini Boachi, may his soul rest in peace. Watching from Achim Himan in the eastern region of Ghana. Thank you, Asampahini. From Patience Dark, watching from Hamburg, Germany. Edna, you are looking beautiful. Thank you, Patience. From NDC Diaspora Union, Ghana is indeed in total crisis under Akufo-Addo and his team. Watching from Amsterdam, Holland on YouTube. Thank you. From Robert Kimpe. Whenever I hear the name of Professor Mills, tears run down. May he rest in peace. Watching from Paris, France. From Osei Superior, watching from Barcelona, Spain. Innovative news. Thank you, Osei. Okay, so that will be it for tonight. Thanks for watching. You can log on to our social media handles on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Today Ghana News TV. News updates was sponsored by Top Connect. Send money everywhere, no fees. I'm Edna Sagbonya.